Discipline, discipline, discipline. It's what everybody wants. It's like the hottest commodity. Everyone wants to be more disciplined. And for a lot of us, being more disciplined will just make us live a better life, period. And we know that. But the enemy to discipline is really just like, I want to say sloth, but just overall overconsumption, like kind of overdoing it in certain areas. Maybe just kind of living a life that's filled with cheap dopamine in that sense, right? So when we talk about cheap dopamine, we're really talking about like all the ways that dopamine is so easily accessible for us as humans without really doing much. AKA, you can turn on your TV and get immediately hit with dopamine with no reward, just sitting on the couch. Whereas back in the day, I mean, you had to earn your dopamine. You go walk somewhere and then you get ice cream, or you bike somewhere with your friends. I don't fucking know. Like, you're being chased by lions if you really want to go that primal. And um not being chased by lions, you walk a very far distance and you get that dopamine, and it's earned in a way. It's honestly, that's how it's supposed to be. Okay. And if we're going to talk about discipline, we do need to talk about dopamine. And I'm not no neuroscientist. I do love neuroscience though. But when it comes to building discipline, entering your disciplined, responsible girl era, right? And it's not an era, it's just our values at this point. It really is going to come down to like, what are those ways that you kind of numb out or escape or, whatever on a daily basis? And how is that kind of holding you back? Now, discipline in it of itself is really, of course, the ability to do XYZ thing regardless of how you feel in the moment, right? And the way that we feel changes a lot, right? Like, you could literally be super motivated. I'm going to change my life on Monday. And then Tuesday, you wake up a little bit later than usual, didn't get good sleep. The day hits you, and you're kind of already back to like, okay, well, I'll just start fresh tomorrow. And so, in my experience, when it comes to building discipline, having that all or nothing mentality is really the enemy of discipline, because discipline is not about being perfect. And discipline is not about constantly being consistent, because consistency isn't constant, right? Discipline is about honoring your commitments, honoring your word, and making sure that your commitments are actually in true alignment with what you say that you value and what your true values are. Because our values are the decision making filters of our lives. Okay, got that from Layla Hormozy, boss ass bitch. They are the decision making filters of our lives. So, whether we're conscious of it or not, if you say that you value health and getting fit and getting in shape, but every weekend you're drinking your ass off, there's nothing wrong with that. However, you your actual values, whether you admit it or not, are always going to be reflected via your actions. And so you might value getting lit as fuck, and that might be your source of fun. And again, that used to be me. So like, again, no judgment. However, there's an incongruence there, right? Now, you don't have to choose between one life or the other. That was a big misconception that I had in the beginning of like my health and fitness journey. I felt like, okay, well, I can either have fun and live my life, or I have to be super strict and fucking miss out on things and not go out to like stay on track. And that's just not true. And like I said, all or nothing thinking is the enemy to real discipline. But again, guys, it's about aligning your values. Somebody who values, you know, um, getting lit and partying, and also maybe practicing healthy habits during the week, they're just going to have different type of progress and results. And again, that's in alignment with where they're at. Now, somebody who is maybe surrounded by a lot of that, but they want to change their values, well, then that's even better because it gives you the opportunity to really practice living those values in those moments, right? In those moments where, maybe everybody is taking more shots and you're really like, you really value feeling good. Like, you don't really want one or more, but like, just because everybody else is around you, you're going to drink, then that's you going against your values. Okay. So, going back to entering your disciplined girl era, your disciplined fit girl era, responsible girl era is going to be a few things. And one of it is like, I want to ask you why. Like, why do you give a fuck about being disciplined? Literally, I talk to so many people every single day. Everybody wants to be more disciplined. It's one thing to want it, it's another thing to actually embody it and practice it because it forces you to get out of your comfort zone. And a lot of us are living in our comfort zones, like little comfort babies. But one of the things that will really make discipline just so much easier is actually having intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is motivation that comes from the inside out, right? Instead of always feeling like you need to push and drag yourself to do things, like you're going to naturally feel pulled to do things. It's going to be this inner pull instead of this constant outside push. Because if you always need something to push you, you always feel like it's like a drag. I mean, how the fuck are you going to be able to be disciplined? So, having some type of internal motivator where it's like, I mean, for me, it could be as simple as incorporating something you enjoy into your routine, right? It could be as simple as, really just starting your, even if you're like having a kind of a spiritual journey in it of itself, like it could just be as simple as wanting to embody that more, right? But it has been so much easier for me personally and a lot of our clients to be more disciplined. Obviously, like there's always going to be moments where it's a little bit of a drag, but I always think about, how am I going to feel afterward? And I see that I crush my workout. I see that I have a glute pump. I see that I feel good. I feel confident. And that fucking feels good. So discipline in it of itself is, yes, about like understanding what is internally driving you. And like when you enjoy it, it's just so much easier. You know what I mean? Like obviously, again, you're not always going to enjoy it, but what ways can you? What ways can you take the pressure off? Now, kind of switching gears here and going into some of just of my tips, advice when it comes to entering and staying in your disciplined girl era. One of the main things is really, again, guys, I'm like filming this in my closet, no notes, nothing. I'm like trying to get back on my weekly. Shout out Deanna, my girl. She told me get on my weeklies. I said, okay, period. I'm gonna get on my Zoom. So I'm kind of just thinking off the top of my head right now. But when I think about, again, our clients that are able to be disciplined, even though they have a lot going on. I literally have a client right now. She's crushing her deficit. It hasn't always been easy. She has 4 kids, single mom. One of them has special needs. Like literally no excuses. Like if you give me excuses, like literally shut the fuck up, get out of my face. I'm just kidding. I love you. Um, that's my Aries coming out. Um, um, it's really about uh, having non-negotiables in place, right? Being solution oriented and knowing when and how to zoom out at the bigger picture, especially if you're someone who definitely has a pattern of falling into procrastination and then beating yourself up and then having all or nothing thinking. It's like, you know, how do you expect to reach your goals from a disempowered state? You're not. You're just not. So, when we learn how to have non negotiables, one, what are those non negotiables? Pick like two for the day. And this is where a lot of people go wrong, me included. Because again, I would just go about my day, go about my life, living on autopilot, wake up, get coffee, go to work, go to, watch a show on lunch, go home, watch a show, binge Netflix, and then go to bed. And then wake up the next morning and do it all over again. Promise myself I would go work out early, would sleep in. That was my life. And, drink every weekend, drink sometimes during the week. Again, nothing wrong with that. That was just my life. And it would start to catch up to me. And then I would literally be at work and be like, okay, this is how I'm going to turn my life around. This is what I'm going to do. That doesn't work. That doesn't work because it feels good mentally. I call it vision board syndrome. You know, you're dreaming, you're talking about it, you're ideating, but it's not really sticking in the physical reality. And that's because you're trying to do an entire lifestyle overhaul overnight. You're making decisions and you're setting goals from a place of a highly motivated state, which is already going to cause you to burn out, get overwhelmed, and hit the reset button. What you want to do instead, and this is the path that we take with all of our 101 online coaching clients for Embody Her, our nutrition, training, lifestyle coaching program, is we start small. If you want to enter your discipline girl era, you have to think long term. You have to know how to zoom out and know how to think about, okay, cool, I can be consistent with this for 3 weeks. I could eat, fucking carrots and chicken for a week, 2 weeks. But if I were to zoom out mentally 6 months from now, what could I be consistent with? Okay. And starting there. And if it feels too easy, that's exactly where you want to be because that's how you're going to build the discipline, the intrinsic motivation, and the confidence because you're actually starting off so stupidly easy and small that it almost feels silly. And then you can start there and then build and build and build and build. And that's how you gain confidence. That's how you see results. That's how a lot of our clients see results too. We really meet them where they're at and start there. And a lot of times they feel like, oh, I feel like this isn't enough. And then they're making progress and they're being able to stay consistent. And they're like, wow, I haven't been able to be consistent with something in this long. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Because you're always trying to do some extreme thing. Even if in your head you're like, oh, well, it's not extreme. Like, it's just always some sprint, some 8 week challenge, 6 week challenge, 75 hard, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that again. But what about 365? Like 75 this, 75 that. What about 365? I posted this on my TikTok. I'm like, I need you to get on your 365-day Zoom. Like, fuck a 75, whatever. You know what I mean? And again, I love challenges. I think they're good to keep you motivated if you already have that foundation, but they're not the best for really building a steady foundation. Now, an example of having non negotiables and building brick by brick is again to be like, okay, what are 1 to 2 habits, lifestyle habits in my life right now that I know for a fact if they just improved a little bit, I would have more energy, I would have more mental clarity, I would feel better, and probably look better too, and like just have a better life. And easily right off the top of my head, I'm thinking sleep and morning routine for a lot of us. Okay. My morning routine has been something I've finally been dialing in. It's not perfect by any means. But I've definitely got a groove. My last podcast, I talked about high vibe habits I practice daily to feel my best. So if you want to go more into that, you can take a listen to that one. But when it comes to, again, those non negotiables, it's like, okay, if you go to bed, and everybody has different schedules, different, work schedules, things like that. So use discernment, just apply it to your own life. Um, if you know that you go to bed really late and you're binging shows or you're just scrolling up super late, like I would say anything past like 10:30, 11 is pretty late. Our body actually gets the best quality sleep before 10:30 p.m. than it does going to bed after 10:30 p.m. So, fun fact. So, easy way for you to start is like, okay, I'm not gonna cut out my Netflix binge time because like I need that. You don't need anything, but again, like hello, the society we live in, bitch. I need to know what's going on with Jen from The Bachelor. I need to know what's going on in Love Island. Like, please don't play with me. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have an episode to myself, but I'm gonna do a digital detox before bed. That's one habit. That's one habit that me doing a digital detox before bed and being disciplined with that one thing allows me to practice more of a nighttime ritual. I get to spend time with myself, with, my spirituality in terms of like whatever that looks like that night. If that's like journaling, if that's meditating, if that's stretching, like it changes every single night. And then because I do that digital detox and I'm being disciplined with that, I'm waking up earlier, more naturally, right? That's another thing. I feel like, again, a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. Like, girl, you wake up at 9. Why are you trying to wake up that early? I've read based on studies, the best way to work your way up is actually by 15 minutes at a time. Our body does the best with 15-minute increments of like adjusting our morning schedule. So, That's an example. One habit, digital detox before bed and like having like a nighttime ritual, which will allow you to wake up a little bit earlier. That's already two birds with one stone. And let's say you're consistent with that, like you're building towards consistency. Maybe the nights that you stay up a little bit late, you collect feedback, you learn from it. Okay. The nights that I didn't, do what I say what I was going to do, what was different those days? Was I maybe more sluggish? Did I have like an extra hard day and I just wanted to say F it and like numb out? And that's like a way that I'm coping, right? And just take that feedback and apply it. Now that you got your digital detox down, you're disciplined with that, and you're waking up a little bit earlier and you're disciplined with that. It's like, what else can I be disciplined with? Can I be disciplined with getting in protein in every meal? Can I be disciplined with learning how to actually track my food so I can see even more results and understand nutrition on a deeper level? Can I be disciplined with not smoking weed and coughing again? And, can I be disciplined with uh, just other things, the things that you're addicted to? We're all addicted in different ways. I mean, addiction's a spectrum, right? So start there. Have those non negotiables. I mean, the non negotiables in my life, I would say, are 100% digital detox before bed. That is a non negotiable. And then I kind of just use my intuition after that. Like, again, if I feel like journaling, if I feel like doing this or that, I use my intuition. Because like forcing myself to journal every night is just not going to happen. And forcing myself to, like, it's just not going to happen. So I just intuitively lean into like what I feel. Non negotiable number two, mornings. Like, gotta wake up, work out when I need to. On rest days, I get in morning movement just by walking around outside. And that's an example of non-negotiables. Okay, so maybe a non-negotiable for you is like um having better boundaries, and get really specific, because even with that, I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, you want to get specific with this stuff, because when it comes to discipline, the brain likes specificity. Like when people say things like, "Oh yeah, but I'm being mindful," or "Oh yeah, but like, this and that, I'm pretty like, what does that mean? Like, get specific, because the brain loves specificity. So when you're like, "Oh, I'm going to hit my step goal today." How? Right? Like, I'm going to hit my step goal today by um, you know, every time I eat, I, just walk around for circulation around my apartment, or go on a walk if you work from home, or I use my walking pad, or whatever it is. That's an example of that. Maybe a non negotiable for one of my clients that she built for herself is every other weekend drinking, max 2 drinks. It's a non negotiable for her. So like she drinks every other weekend instead of every single week. She went from drinking 5 to 6 drinks a weekend to 2 drinks every other week. I mean, that's fucking bomb. And obviously, like I said, you want to build up toward that, because then you'll kind of get like overwhelmed. But that's a non-negotiable for her, and it's worked for her. And she's able to socialize. She's able to learn how to have fun without ruining her progress. Okay. Um, okay. Next tip thing to entering and staying in your disciplined girl era. Be solution oriented. Be solution oriented. Learn how to adapt and learn how to adjust. One of my favorite quotes is, consistency is not so much about discipline as much as it is about adaptability, right? Your ability to adapt. Um, there's a big difference between having structure and having rigidity. When you're being rigid and when you're having structure. What I love about structure, routine, discipline, it's almost like I'm being the masculine to my own feminine. You know what I mean? It's like I'm the masculine to my feminine, bitch. Like, I make sure that I do the structural things, like making sure I'm prepared, having meals ready, XYZ, XYZ, so I can be in flow, so I can actually be creative, so I can actually receive to the fullest and not be caught up and, and feel scattered and overwhelmed. It's like, if you're feeling very scattered, very overwhelmed, how are you actually like pouring into yourself? Do you have non-negotiable? Do you have strong boundaries? Because at 9 times out of 10, whenever I feel overwhelmed, scattered, it's usually because some of my boundaries are lacking, whether it's with myself or with others. And listen, I work with a lot of women every single day. Boundaries are something we can all work on. Okay. Especially if you're, you know, have a lot of people to care for. So First one is having non-negotiables, working your way up so you can play the long game and have mental endurance. And the second tip is, again, being solution oriented. Anytime I come across somebody where like they are just very problem oriented, meaning you ask them for a solution, they give you 10 new problems. It's like, I didn't even ask you for all that, but thank you. Let's go back to the first, right? And again, I think a lot of us learn this from somewhere, or it becomes a coping mechanism where we don't even really realize, right? We're just like, oh, like, well, I can do that, but then this and then that and then this and then that. And it's like, nobody asked you for that. Okay. And I'm not talking about anybody specific here, by the way. It's just I have conversations with women on Instagram every day, potential client calls, just people even outside of that. And I have a lot of conversations. So, I mean, but if the shoe fits, I mean, then it fits. But there's a big difference between being problem oriented and solution oriented. Okay. And so being solution oriented means understanding that everything is figure outable. Literally, there's a book. I read it, changed my life. It's called Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. Amazing, amazing read. You will never feel stuck again after that because you're just always going to be like, well, there's a solution to that. I might not be able to see it now, but there is one. Um, and so it just really allows you to just relieve so much stress, relieve so much overwhelm, relieve so much like negative pressure, because not all pressure is bad pressure, not all guilt is bad guilt. I always say that. And allow you to really focus on what's actually going to move the needle forward. Because there's only one productive thing to do, and that is find a solution. It's either find a solution or let it go because it's not in your control. And if it's not in your control, have your 5-second funeral, have your temper tantrum. I'm big on feeling your feelings. I'm not a fan of like toxic positivity where you just tell yourself to suck it up and move on and don't feel and just be positive. Like that's never, 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 never my vibe. I'm more of like a rage into the pillow, cry mid traffic, and then move on, right? Because there's nothing I can do about it. And if there is, cool. Like, what can I do? Who can I ask? What resources can I leverage? I Google everything, bro. I'm literally like, why do I keep procrastinating Google? And now they got the AI, so that shit helps even more. But it's like everything has a solution. Our brain quite literally filters out anything that we feel like is not important. So if we trained ourselves for so long to only look at the like problems, then our brain is always going to do that. So you got to retrain yourself to look for the solution. Okay. If I meal prep my food and then I forgot my lunch and now I have to eat out and I'm tracking my macros and I'm like, fuck, man, like I literally, had my food ready. Like, of course, this would happen to me. It's like, you're already doing it. You're already doing it. Stop. Like, why? Have your 5-second funeral. Fuck, I left my food. Okay, what can I do about it? What can I do about it? Okay, well, maybe I can get Chicken Kitchen and get like my chicken sweet potato combo. That's pretty good. That'll fit my macros. Boom, solution solved. Nothing's wrong, right? But what happens is that we indulge. We indulge in the problem. We indulge. We fixate. We need to be in control. And then we're like, I'm so overwhelmed right now. It's like, let that shit go, bitch. You don't hung on to that shit. Like, let it go. Let it go. I am not the friend to come to. Like, unless you tell me, look, I just want to complain right now. Like, I don't need solutions. Beautiful. Like, complain it up. I don't care. But if you're coming to me for a solution and you're like, well, don't come to me. Don't come to me because I will give you the solution. I will keep it real with you. And if you want someone to just like be like, yeah, like you're so right. It's so annoying. I'm not doing it. I'm not indulging in your problems with you. Um, you know, unless again, like obviously there's different situations. Like I have discernment. Like I'm not just gonna be annoying about that, but be a solutionist. Okay. Be a solutionist. And honestly, this has worked for so many of our clients where our clients will come in very high strung, like meaning very reactive to stress, and they build the stress resilience. And the stress resilience allows them to be disciplined, but it's not really discipline. It's them focusing on what is within their control. And the more that you just focus on what's within your control and you focus on solutions to the problem, to the challenge, like you're just not going to be as stressed because you're not having these energy leaks, right? I call them energy leaks where you're focused on this and you need someone to do something for you and they're not doing it and why can't they just be this way and if only they would just it's like bro, let that shit the fuck go. Do you have control over it? Can you control it? Yes or no? No. Okay, if you can't, what do you feel that harping on this is going to do for you? It's giving you a false sense of control. It's a false sense of control. It is not real. And it's actually draining your energy. Okay. The other person's not even thinking about you right now. Okay. Whereas if it is within your control, cool. What can we do about it? Who can we ask for help? What resources could we leverage, maybe? Right. And use your intuition. Like, I'm so big on that inspired action. And that just allows you to move the needle forward, move the needle forward, move the needle forward versus like throwing in the towel, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy where you don't want to be anyway, right? So being disciplined, I feel like a lot of the times is actually so many other skills and traits bundled up as discipline, but it's actually a lot of times not even discipline. Like, I would say that for me, I would say that I'm a semi-disciplined person. Like, I feel like other people would look at me and be like, she's so disciplined. Girl, I done grew up so damn lazy in so many areas. But if I like what I'm doing, if I enjoy it, if I have like a long term goal, a vision, and I'm embodied in it, it's not really that I'm like disciplined per se. It's that I know how to work smarter, not harder at this point. I used to be very hard worker. And it's like, all right, you still need to be a hard worker, of course, but I've just learned how to work smarter. I focus on, again, solutions, adaptability, being flexible, having structures, having non negotiables. And it just makes me feel my best. And because it makes me feel my best and I feel like I look my best too, how could I not be disciplined? Because it's literally helping me feel my best, right? What happens is that we get comfortable and then we start to slowly slip back and it happens. It's happened to me plenty of times. Plenty. If you go on my YouTube, girl, probably every 8 videos is like, let's get back on track. And this isn't me like not being a hypocrite, but it's just the reality of things, right? So I would say that entering your discipline girl era is a lot more about being more flexible, right? Being having structures, having some non-negotiables in place and really playing the long game and aligning your values with who you want to be, how you want to embody a lot more than it is like white knuckling the process and like pushing through, right? You definitely need that. Yesterday I did not feel like going to the gym, but I guess that's discipline then because I'm like, you know what? Like if you you'll go up and you'll wake up and you go to your Pilates class because you know that you booked it. So what's so different with the gym? And I'll just mentally kind of play that game on myself. And I'm like, you're right, you're right. And I just get up. I just try not to think about it, honestly. When it comes to that, the more that I think about it, I literally stop letting myself think about it. It's like when you're dating somebody, when you're a hopeless romantic and you're like already thinking up and dreaming up scenarios in your head. And you're like, no, don't allow yourself to dream up those scenarios because you're going to big up this person to something that you don't even know if they are. And that's how you fall hard and you fall fast. Like, let them show you who they are. And it's the same thing with fitness and health and all of that and being disciplined. It's like, don't let yourself think about it and wonder about it. And you're literally going to drain yourself. I don't allow myself to think. 3, 2, 1, go, action. And a big part of this is like, I have those non negotiables in place because I know that in order for me to be consistent, I need to have energy. And if I don't have energy, then it's a lot harder. I'm still going to do it, right? And the things that support and protect my energy are my non-negotiables, are having that digital detox before bed, getting in my steps, moving my body, making sure I'm hitting my protein and calorie goal and fueling my body properly. I mean, I'm tracking my food right now. I'm doing 2 intuitive days a week, but I'm tracking my food right now and it's like I'm tracking to make sure that I eat enough, because it's actually crazy how many times you think that you ate enough, and I'll have like fucking 100 to like 80 to 100 grams of carbs left, and I'm like, damn, I'm behind. And that's why I'm like making great progress, because I'm like making sure that the nutrition is matching up my activity, and I'm not guessing it, I'm not winging it, I'm not like, I hate guessing. I hate guessing because it is just like, to me, it's a waste of my time. I want to know for sure. Um, and so having those non-negotiables, being solution oriented, zooming out, and really thinking about what can I be consistent with long term has really helped me actually be more disciplined. And a lot of it has been, again, less about white knuckling the process and more about just like aligning my actions to who I want to be and who I'm being and my identity, right? That identity level transformation. So, I would love to hear what honestly stood out to you today from today's podcast. I've been loving the feedback lately. And yeah, just like, how are you going to integrate this into your life? What stood out the most to you? And what are 1 to 2 lifestyle habits that you are looking to change right now, today? And practice that. Okay. This isn't like about being perfect and having a streak. And if you break the streak, then, oh, it's like, no, that's all stories. If you want to play the long game, you got to play the long game. You got to practice. You got to practice being that, and be patient. Be patient with yourself. Like, I see so many women give up so easily, and they're like, it's like, bitch, you've been living a life of XYZ habits for 20, 30, 40 fucking years, and you expect yourself to change in 6 months. It's not going to happen. So give yourself grace, be patient, play the long game, and allow this to be a journey. Like, a lot of people, again, I ask people every day, like, are you on a health and fitness journey? Are you on like a journey of that kind? And the truth is that as long as you got a beating heart, like, you are on a journey. You're just either ignoring it or you're honoring it, right? And so, you know, a lot of us wait till we start to physically not feel comfortable to take action, and that's very common. But once you actually get more comfortable, it's really like, okay, why is it important for me to maintain, and what skills do I need to build to really maintain that long term? Okay, whether that is having better boundaries, whether that is, being more adjustable, and stop being so hard on yourself and actually celebrating your wins more often, right? The little wins. Okay, and building up from there. So I'm going to wrap it up here, y'all. I got a call in 10 minutes with a client, so I'm super excited. If you guys are desiring more of that one-on-one support, you can book a call by applying for our Lifestyle Women's Nutrition Training and Habit Building Coaching Program. That was a mouthful. I feel like I always try to sum up everything that we do in like one, and you just can't. So it's more of an experience than it is something I can really just like say. Um, Book a call and see how we can support you going through the rest of this year, especially if you're someone where you're like, yeah, I'm pretty consistent, but you're not really where you would like to be. Um, and you're in that place in your life where you're ready for that next chapter, and you want to get that diver deep, and you want to have the support and the accountability, and you want to get educated around things like your nutrition and having balance and building those routines and systems. This is a good place to start. Other than that, you can keep binging my podcast episodes. And I'm really liking these closet ones. I got me a little mic here. I'm just like, am using voice memo. I like this. Yeah, because my podcast mic is not connecting to my laptop. It's so annoying. Like, for those who don't know, I'm trying to be way more consistent with YouTube, podcasts, but it's almost like every single time I try to be consistent, something would happen. And I do think that that's probably me subconsciously manifesting that. So now I'm just like, really, again, look at me. I'm being a solutionist. I'm a solutionist. See, I'm in the closet with my little mic using voice memos. That's being a solutionist. And because of that, you guys have a new podcast episode out. Whereas if I were like, oh, well, my podcast mic is broken and I just waited for something to like fix it, it's like nothing would change. So perfect example. But I'll catch y'all on the next one. Love you guys. Bye.